my music has got a strong experimental element, and it's literally something that it's created to be listened at home, but also to enjoy from left, you know, at a rave. So sometimes I struggle to find the right balance, and I find myself like stranded in this limbo of really deep, strong emotions that I'm trying to process with my music, and the fact that I'm gonna have to drop them on the dance floor, you know? It's not always easy, but I try and focus on the rhythmical aspects of my productions. The way like I use and select and process sound is literally like a form of therapy for me. I like to create links or connections between the musical world that I'm about to create and different elements of the natural world that I get particularly into. First EP, it's called Diplozoon, and the idea actually comes from this parasite. It's called Diplozoon paradoxum, and it's actually the only species of monogamous parasite that exists in the world. I find the idea of two bodies melting together and becoming something else just extremely deep and fascinating. For my second EP instead, Aquamarine, I looked at the ocean. I felt literally like at the bottom of the ocean, emotion-wise, and you know, because of the things that I was experiencing at the time. And I wanted to just like literally dive and go myself into like this space. And so I started becoming super interested in what the ocean sounds like and what the creatures of the ocean sound like and how its color and movement and motion create sounds. And that was also related to that particular phase of my life that I was going through at the time, so it just felt very natural. My Clouds EP instead, I decided to look up, so I went from like, you know, it was actually a transformation that happened within myself, you know, going from a place that was pretty dark to a place where I felt light and elated and, you know, just floating in general. So I literally looked up, and I'm so fascinated by the clouds. I find them incredibly beautiful, playful, but also scary. Writing is another one of my passions, so yeah, just including my compositions into my music, it's the next step of my musical journey and my musical evolution, and so that's something that I'm experimenting a lot with at the moment. So this is my studio, my home studio. Mostly happens, I would say, like with laptop. Also have a mic, which I use a lot to record my own samples. That is like a huge part of how I make music. Just looking for sounds that I find interesting. It could be, you know, actual musical instruments or objects. I like actually making my own hand percussions. This is what I call my magic drawer and I have a lot of different hand percussions here. These are shakers that I make with Yakult bottles. They're filled with different things, like this has got coriander seeds. I have one with salt, ice, and as you can hear, the sound is like very different and very interesting. Use things like rocks and shells. This in particular I used in a song that I made for a fabric compilation, Fabric Selects 2. Okay. So I've got all sorts of things in here. These are clams. We actually had I'm from Italy originally. My dad made a delicious pasta with these clams, and as we were eating them, I was like, okay, these sound amazing. And so I asked my dad to just put them aside, wash them. I washed them like 1,000 times, and now they are a beautiful, I don't know, hand percussion, I would say. When it comes to making these things sound real, like in my music productions, I do some processing. That's very fundamental for me. I would normally basically just make the sound feel a little bit fuller, like maybe like using overdrives or saturation, things like that. And yeah, then it's just a matter of really like layering them to make them sound interesting, because sometimes, you know, it can be like a little bit flat. So yeah, shaping the sound so that it sounds like really full and present, and then just, you know, like arranging them, cutting, chopping stuff. Something that I do a lot with recordings is to actually transform them into sampler tracks, so that I, you know, have a long recording stretched on all the different keys, and then I can just like, you know, play around and create interesting combinations just by you know, having the recording at my disposal, just like chopped up on the keys. So this is the project for Giada, which is this song that I've released on Fabric Selects 2. And here I've used some of the instruments that I just showed you that I've handmade myself. This salt rock. And so on something like this, I would use, like, to make the sound like feel like fuller and nice, I would of course just work the EQ as much as I can, and then I added this RX 950, which is like one of my favorite plugins to use actually. Something else that I use a lot for this is this amazing saturator, which is called the Black Box. This is also like pretty amazing. It just gives like an excellent body like to everything that you give it to. This is something that I use a lot. There's also some coriander. Intros are very important for me. They set the tone of the whole track, so I hardly ever just start with a kick. So here I have this really bassy, dark intro, and then the percussive elements start coming in towards like the drop section, and then when the drop hits, we kind of like, I just bring in more elements just to, you know, create what the basic beat of the track is, and then I start layering and adding like more and more. When it comes to the melodic elements, I like to use very classic synths normally. The Mini Moog is my favorite, to be honest. I use a lot of like UAD instruments, but also I love the, you know, classic synthesizers from like the Roland Cloud, so like Juno 106, Jupiter 8, like all that sort of stuff. So yeah, this is something that I work with a lot, and it's just like, you know, classic, basic, bassy sounds like that you can just like turn into whatever, and that's just something really super. Something else that I work with a lot is different time signature. I love to just experiment with like different like patterns of assembling like drums. Every percussive element in my tunes normally have like different time signatures. Like there's a strong percussive elements to my music production, because rhythm, it's what drives me, like in general, what drives my love for music. Okay, so this is Hackney Wick. It's a very special place for me because I lived in this area for about 10 years. And it's a very, I don't know, very arty and edgy place to be in London. It's different from anywhere else around the city, and it's got such a huge heritage. I live in Bow at the moment, where grime was born, for example, and it's so important for me to live in a place that feels part of, like, you know, music culture, like in general. When I moved in 2009, we used to come to a lot of illegal raves here in Hackney Wick. It was just like empty warehouses, and, you know, there's like that rawness, that kind of industrial feel to it that makes it, I don't know, a very special place, and definitely influenced me as an artist, because, I don't know, you're just surrounded by art and people that actually work in music and arts, and you just breathe it like in the air. Being here for me means like being extremely connected and in tune with like other artists and, you know, just the art and music life in London.